Hello, everyone. This is Thomas Mark Moore reporting again on another diary entry regarding my life experiences in and out of the justice system in Michigan and specifically Macomb County. I had such a grave concern, I wrote the Secretary General Ban Ki moon of the United Nations on February 13th, 2013. I never got a response from that agency regarding this written complaint. It was an individual human rights complaint, but I also sent him a letter, a personal letter. I'd like to share that with you today. Secretary General Ban Ki moon, United Nations, New York 10017, USA. Phone number 212-963-5012. Fax 212-963-7055. Email address is ecu@un.org. Regarding terrorism, national security issues of land, sea, and air, abuse toward women, children, and torture. Please review my case in U.S. District Court in Eastern District of Michigan, Southern Division 2:12 CV 15416 SJM MCAM for the full scope. Dear Honorable Secretary General Ban Ki moon, I want to start by stating I honor and respect what you do for the world community. I read your role as Secretary General to the United Nations. You are equal parts diplomat and advocate, civil servant, and CEO. The Secretary General is a symbol of the United Nations ideals and a spokesman for the interests of the world's peoples, in particular the poor and vulnerable among them. The Charter describes the Secretary General as Chief Administrative Officer of the organization, who shall act in that capacity and perform such other functions as are entrusted to him or her by the Security Council, General Assembly, Economic and Social Council, and other United Nations organs. The Charter also empowers the Secretary General to bring to the attention of the Secretary of the Security Council any matter which in his opinion may threaten the maintenance of international peace and security. These guidelines both define the powers of the office and grant a considerable scope of action. The Secretary General would fail if he did not take careful account of the concerns of member states, but he must also uphold the values and moral authority of the United Nations and speak and act for peace, even at the risk, from time to time, of challenging or disagreeing with those same member states. Many issues that seem to be overwhelming to me and may not be able to be solved, but managed somewhat, is a tough task for you to undertake. Dealing with different leaders of the world and their personalities, I believe, can be a daunting but worthwhile task if it involves peace. I've been a witness and victim to evil, torture, kidnapping, human trafficking, severe abuses, and criminals in society that should have been trustworthy. I believe others face the same gauntlet of unacceptable human behavior who may have been women and children. I am a peaceful man who does have physical and mental health issues, some which were onset by people under the color of law, and underlying anger issues because of my victimization. My purpose and acts are fueled out of inspiration and anxiety toward the people who made the intelligent decision of human trafficking, kidnapping, and torturing me while I was in the custody of Macomb County Sheriff's Office. I left that premises in a portable jail cell secretly after being treated inhumanely in jail in a mental health services unit. Facing despair, vulnerability, and feeling fatigued, I wasn't strong enough to gather all the facts needed to compile a stronger case to bring the scumbags involved to justice to this point. Many emotions I felt while in that cage. I was perplexed and pessimistic regarding my survival since I received death threats and false promises. I mainly stated on my bunk. I mainly stated or stayed on my bunk in a torture cell because of my feelings of nausea, weakness, and hopelessness. The people involved were clever enough not to show their faces because I had no human contact. Food, toilet, medications, and faced severe cold that I felt that was like threatening. Certain people did communicate with me through a vent, and I heard things on the ship on what was on that may have been criminal. I was helpless in that torture cell, but blessed by my higher power because he gave me strength in times of starvation, sickness, severe coldness, broken promises, intimidations, death threats, and overall uncertainty that I felt throughout that terrible experience. I truly believed in that strenuous situation I was going to be murdered. When I was in that torture cell, I was transported by different means like a truck, aircraft, seagoing vessels, etc. I was even put into storage facilities while waiting to be picked up and moved elsewhere. An item no more valuable than a box of rice. As I stated in my manifesto diary that is filed in U.S. District Court, Eastern District of Michigan, Southern Division, I unwillingly traveled around the world as a kidnap victim in a torture cell to certain locations like the Panama Canal, Germany, Florida, Bering Sea, etc. I heard the captain of the ship announce these destinations. I can't explain why my life was spared after this agonizing experience, but some people have the answers. To add, when I was in different jail cells in Macomb County Jail, I heard people use lifts and then roll out bugs that monitored my cell. I heard repetitive music playing daily that came from the walls, like one example, Dixieland. Similarly, my home may be bugged because I hear clicking in the walls, then experience strange smells that make my lungs hurt, and then I feel ill. One day I found small black tubing pieces that were cut. One was in my made bed and one was lying on the floor. I kept these suspicious items for evidence if needed someday. Going to the extreme of calling the Macomb County Sheriff's Department to report a breaking and entering months previously to get answers for suspicious circumstances because they smelled men's cologne in my house that wasn't mine, to report a ladder that was broken, and to say the wire to pull it down was cut at a suspicious spot in my garage that has been solid for 40 years. In my ill health, they explained that their office does not investigate attics or homes for faulty wiring or tampering. That wire that was cut off on the pull-down ladder was there for about 40 years. It's binding wire used in aircraft. It's impossible to break. It was cut. Preoccupied with other issues, local, state, and federal law enforcement received my manifesto diary of what happened to me, but to this day, no one has taken me what I have reported seriously. That's why I filed a federal civil lawsuit, 2-12CV-15416, SJM-MCAM. I also have another filed federal lawsuit, 2:12CV-11789. I lost on both. I am hoping that my motion of judicial notice will be approved so my experience can be heard at the highest level that can include international treaties, and then the United Nations Convention Against Torture can be used. I tried that, but the U.S. has to motion any convention against torture issue. So I got a refusal on that one. The convention requires states to take effective measures to prevent torture within their borders and forbids states to transport people to any country where there is reason to believe they will be tortured. The covenant follows the structure of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR, International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, ICCPR, and the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, ICESCR, with a preamble and 33 articles divided into 3 parts. I'm not going to go into these articles because I don't have enough time in my video. The definition of torture. Article 1 of the Convention defines torture as any act by which severe pain, whether physical or mental, is intentionally inflicted on a person for such purposes as obtaining from him or a third person information or a confession, punishing him for an act he or a third person has committed or is suspected of having committed, or intimidating or coercing him or a third person, or for any other reason based on discrimination of any kind, when such pain or suffering is inflicted by or at the highest instigation of or with the consent of acquiescence of a public official or other person acting in an official capacity. It does not include pain or suffering arising only from inherent or incidental to lawful sanctions. Committee Against Torture. The Committee Against Torture, CAT, is a body of human rights experts that monitors implementation of the Convention by state parties. The committee is one of 8 UN-linked human rights treaty bodies. All state parties are obliged under the Convention to submit regular reports to the CAT on how rights are being implemented. Upon ratifying the Convention, states must submit a report within 1 year, after which they are obliged to report every 4 years. The committee examines each report and addresses its concerns and recommendations to the state party in the form of concluding observations. Under certain circumstances, the CAT may consider complaints or communications from individuals claiming that their rights under the Convention have been violated. The CAT usually meets in April, May, and November each year in Geneva. Members are elected to 4-year terms by state parties and can be re-elected if nominated. The current membership of the CAT. This is one great example, but many more can be found for sticking up for human rights around the globe. I plan to do more work and investigation of other human rights laws and hoping someone will believe and subscribe to what I'm trying to achieve. I've dealt with such corruption in law enforcement and other problems that stem from being a victim of these abuses. I am fighting back to save my life, so others will be saved. Others may have been victims and not be alive today, or currently suffering under the same torture model, or have the capabilities or blessings I have received to push back for justice for all. Honorably, Thomas M. Moore, 2/13/2013, an advocate against torture for the human race. So this was a brief letter I sent to Secretary General Ban Ki-moon of the United Nations. I got a refusal on my request because they said it has to be initiated by the United States for any type of investigation. So basically that complaint fell on deaf ears. But at least it's filed and people know the truth. And I want you to know the truth also. More to come, people. I am slowly releasing information to the public since complaints on my own and lawsuits have fallen through. But I have pertinent documentation that's filed that if people look at can see that something really happened to me. Questions are asked. Why did this man come down with disabilities under the color of law? Why is he so vigilant in trying to receive some form of justice/help? Thank you again for watching, and I will do my best to keep you updated on more information that may save your life one day if you come in contact with certain people. Thanks again. Goodbye.